welcome to the January 29th, 2013 meeting of the Glendale City Council. May we have a roll call, please?
Council members: Friedman.
Here.
Manukian.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Mayor Quintero.
Here. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Council Member Friedman.
I invite you to rise and join me in renewing our pledge to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation. Someone once said that our lives are not determined by what happens to us, but how we react to what happens, not by what life brings to us, but by the attitude we bring to life. A positive attitude causes a chain reaction of positive thoughts, events, and outcomes. It is a catalyst, a spark that creates extraordinary results. Let us pray that our collective brings our positive attitudes to these chambers for the welfare and prosperity of Glendale. Let our actions here tonight create a chain reaction of positive energy and excitement throughout our community. As always, watch over our brave men and women who continue to serve overseas and at home in our nation's armed forces. Let them be out of harm's way, and may they return home swiftly. Amen.
What's next, Mr. Clerk?
The report of the clerk is the following: that the agenda for the January 29, 2013 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Friday, January 25, 2013 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Under presentation and appointments at 3A is the agenda preview for the meetings of February 5, 2013.
Ms. Beers.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, for the Glendale Housing Authority for February 5th, we have no business agenda items. That afternoon, we do have a City Council and a successor agency meeting to commence at 3 p.m., and that's Director of Community Development and Community Services and Parks. Bid results for the 216 South Brand Boulevard and Central Park Passeo project, and this is in connection with spec number 3461. In the evening, for the City Council meeting to commence at 6 p.m., we have a number of consent items. Fire Chief, City of Glendale Hazard Mitigation Plan update. Director of Community Services and Parks, this is regarding bid results for the Catalina Verdugo Adobe restroom project. Director of Public Works and Fire Chief, this is disposition of two 2001 Crown Vic vehicles. Director of Public Works and Fire Chief, disposition of one 1990 Seagrave ladder truck. Director of Community Services and Parks, this is transfer of CDBG funds as recommended by the CDBG Advisory Committee. Director of Community Services and Parks, bid results for the Maryland Avenue Park project, and this is in connection with spec number 3391. Interim Director of Information Services and Fire Chief, this is regarding the annual maintenance service agreement for the Fire Company Inspections Program iPad application. That's a question mark whether that one's coming forward or not. We'll know more about that tomorrow. Fire Chief, this is regarding the annual weed abatement program for 2013. And under action items, we have two items. Fire Chief, this is regarding the electronic patient care reporting system. Services for the fire department. And lastly, Director of Community Services and Parks, this is regarding the design services for the Palmer Park site improvement project. And that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next, please.
3B is a presentation of trophies to the Junior Ambassadors Recycling Challenge winners.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Council. It is my happy duty here to be able to give a presentation for the Middle School Junior Ambassador Program. The Junior Ambassadors Program was created to provide some continuity for the students who participated in the I Love My Neighborhood contest that's done during the elementary school years, and to provide continuity for them as they mature into middle school students. The students learn about two major topics during the year: litter and stormwater pollution prevention, and recycling and waste reduction. The students are taught leadership skills which they can use to influence their classmates, their friends, and their families, but to behave in an environmentally responsible manner. The Recycling Challenge is just one of the tools that they use to persuade their peers to be better environmental stewards. The Recycling Challenge has been run for the last couple of years here by one of our CDD employees, Katrin Madatian here, who unfortunately we're going to be losing as she graduates from Glendale Community College nursing program soon. And she has successfully engaged a couple of partners within the city, including the Glendale Unified School District and other schools, as well as the Public Works Department's Integrated Waste Division. Each school gets a check for the value of the bottles and cans that they've recycled. That's from Allen Company, which runs the city's recycling center. And this year, the students recycled over 500 pounds of plastic and aluminum bottles, and the challenge involved nearly 4,000 students. So with that, Mr. Mayor, should I present the trophies, or would you like to?
Well, you go ahead.
Okay, very good. The honorable mention went to Toll Middle School, and I don't believe we have a representative from them tonight. The third place award goes to Rosemont Middle School, and which is represented by Aaron Lynch, their instructor. The second place is awarded to First Lutheran School, and Kathy Bloom, their instructor, is here today. And the Recycling Challenge champions this year, represented by instructors and a number of students, is the Wilson Middle School. We'd like to invite up Arlene Milton, Elizabeth Beto, Anna Vanane, and Adeline. I guess you guys are taking all the, we're right here since you did the work. Would you like to say a few words?
Hi, my name is Anna Persamian. I'm the president of the Junior Ambassadors Club at Woodrow Wilson Middle School. I have been a part of Junior Ambassadors since 6th grade, and this year will be my last year, and I have the honor of being president. I would like to thank Clean and Beautiful Glendale for sponsoring us, and it's amazing to know that we won first place again. Thank you.
Very well. Now your two associates have to say a few words, and why don't you come around from here and you can get a nice picture of them.
Hi, my name is Fanani Ali Khanyan, and I'm Vice President of Junior Ambassadors. I've been in Junior Ambassadors since 7th grade, been in it for 2 years, and I'm very happy that we have also won first place. I want to thank Clean and Beautiful Glendale for sponsoring us. It's been a great experience learning all about the nature and recycling and how to live eco-friendly. And also, thank you very much. We've gotten a chance to clean the city one campus at a time. Thank you.
Thank you.
First off, I want to say thank you to City of Glendale for supporting our programs at Wilson, especially Junior Ambassadors, and also for supporting our school's garden, which has grown tremendously. We have a beautiful garden, and I also want to thank Mrs. Vito and Miss Milton for being very supportive, and the whole club in general for being very hardworking. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is run through Glendale Clean and Beautiful, represented here tonight by Margaret Hammond.
Very good. Well, we want to thank all of the schools, the instructors, and the students for participating. We've been doing this for quite a few years, and I know how hard everyone works, and also how close the scores are. So it's a great effort, and obviously we can't do it without the instructors and the parents of the kids, but it's really great to have you here. And congratulations to the winning school and to the other winners too. Any other? All right, next please.
Next is City Council and staff comments.
You have the recognition of the trail of safety. All the way at the end?
At the beginning.
There an announcement?
Any announcements?
Just wanted to mention a couple of events I attended. I'm all up in the north part of the city this time. First, a very happy event, which was the opening of a new business in Glendale called Gio's Baguettes and More. I attended their ribbon cutting last week, and it's at 3805 Ocean View in Montrose, right next to the soccer store, if you know where the soccer store is. This bakery, they also serve salads and sandwiches at lunch, but this bakery, from what I understand, flies their bread in from France every single day. So if you like French pastry, yes, there's some appreciative noises from the crowd. If you like French pastry, this is definitely a place to check out. So again, Gio's Baguettes and More, 3805 Ocean View in Montrose. Next, I attended a very serious event, which was at Verdugo Hills Hospital. And this was I believe we do this 4 times a year, the meeting of the Crescendo Valley Drug and Alcohol Prevention Coalition Strategic Partners. I was there along with our city manager, Scott Ochoa, lots of representatives from law enforcement at the city of Glendale, and also different sectors also represented, and it was a big meeting, almost 100 people, I'd say, and groups from nonprofits, from church groups, concerned parents, etc. This is a group that tries to prevent drug and alcohol use in teens and preteens, and it's a very, very important group. They tackle real policy issues. They talk about prevention strategies, and because they are a group of partners that are spread throughout the community, both through their nonprofit work, their nonprofit connections, their faith-based connections. The city, the county was there, county sheriffs. They really have been getting a lot done, and it's a great group, and I commend everybody that's involved. And lastly, a proud event. I attended the Montrose Verdugo City's Chamber of Commerce installation of their new board members and their awards for all of the people in the community up there that do so much for business and for the community. And being a board member is, often a thankless position for a nonprofit. And for a Chamber of Commerce, it's so important that for them to survive, to have strong board members who are dedicated and willing to put in the time. And this group has always had great board members, and their next group is going to do a fabulous job. I want to congratulate all of them and thank them for the work that they do, and especially to congratulate all of the awardees. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other? I attended the same Chamber Award ceremony. It was excellent, including the Educator of the Year, a coach. He teaches history and social studies in addition to coaching the baseball team. Very well attended event. And then the following day, I believe, the Dodgers came to Glendale, to a school right down the street called Tobin World, which basically works with kids who have autism or just need special ed. They've been part of the community for many, many years. So the other Dodger fan in town, Scott Ochoa, and I showed up. He did have his coat and tie on rather than his normal Dodger regalia. But I was very impressed with these ball players. They're obviously very well paid, but they took the time to do this. They came in the Dodger bus. And a lot of the spouses were also part of the presentation. Even one of them even had his little kid, little baby. They even brought a little baby on board. But the looks on the kids' faces, it was unbelievable. They just were so happy, and they were just very, very impressed by the Dodgers. And then they actually took the time to go to. They have like a little store, a little Baskin and Robbins store that they kind of learned to operate. The kids learned to work in that store, and they went to different parts of the school. But it was a great event, and the Dodgers, of course, are close by, and I think now with the new ownership, when I gave my little welcome to Glendale, I did mention the new ownership and that we were expecting pennants and World Series championships, and they all agreed that they would do so, but it was definitely a great event. So I want to thank the Dodger organization. Mr. Manukian, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you're wondering why I'm wearing a yellow jersey, that's because I want to introduce the Trail Safety Patrol program, which has been in the works for over a year now, with the dedicated work of some of the committed staff that we have at the city. I would like to call up Mark Sturdivant, who has been diligently working on this. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to introduce Jess Duran, of course, the Director of Parks, who will in turn introduce the people who worked at it. Sorry.
Thank you, Councilman Manukian. We're partners in this. Mayor Quintero, members of the City Council, after much planning and preparation and support and patience on the part of the City Council, in addition to financial support from the Glendale Parks and Open Space Foundation, this Saturday is the official start of the Volunteer Trail Safety Patrol Program, and we are very proud of that. So we would like to take a few minutes this evening to recognize and introduce the inaugural group of brave and courageous volunteers that you'll be seeing patrolling our trails and our mountains and our hillsides, and they will be available to assist persons enjoying the trails and those possibly even misusing the trails. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Mark Sturdivant, who is the developer of the program. Mark.
Thank you. Mayor Quintero, members of council, members of staff, I'm Mark Sturdivant, Senior Administrative Analyst for Community Services and Parks. And as you know, some time ago, we set to work to establish a volunteer program that had three basic goals. The first was to assist Community Services and Parks staff and other city professionals in protecting and maintaining the safety of park and open space visitors. The second was to educate visitors and trail users about park resources, rules, and regulations. And the third was to observe and report damage, unsafe conditions, and police, fire, and medical emergencies to the proper authorities. And the result of that effort is the Glendale Volunteer Trail Safety Program, otherwise known as the TSP. The program, which is going to begin this weekend, currently features 2 units, a mountain bike unit and a hike unit. And we have 9 members in the hike unit, 8 members rather in the mountain bike unit. The program is a collaboration between Community Services and Parks, Glendale Police, and Glendale Fire. In particular, I want to acknowledge the contribution of Lieutenant Bruce Fox and Chief Ron Gully, and I don't know if the chief is here. See him, but not here tonight. But in any case, Chief Gully and Lieutenant Fox were instrumental in helping me to plan and conduct the all-day training program, and they contributed to our 60-page training handbook that the Trail Safety Patrol members will be utilizing. Members of both units underwent an all-day training program. As I mentioned, that training session included working with police, working with fire, dealing with difficult people, visitor contacts and scenarios, and Red Cross basic first aid. In addition, the members of the mountain bike unit had to undergo the Concerned Off-Road Bicyclists Association's mountain bike skills class, and members of the hike unit had to take a hike test. They had to hike 6.2 miles from Brand Park to the top of the Verdugos and back down in under 2.5 hours. And without further ado, I'd like to take just a moment, and we've got about half the group with us here. I'd like them to come on up and very briefly just introduce themselves to you.
I believe that each one of them deserve a trophy, and we should have had trophies for each one of them today.
Well, we can work on that. Please introduce yourself.
My name is William Campbell. I am a member of the mountain bike unit. I live in the Silver Lake neighborhood of Los Angeles. I joined for a couple reasons. I've been mountain biking in the Verdugos for almost as long as there have been mountain bikes. And I felt it would be a great way to pay the debt I owe to the hills for all the times I've been able to go out and enjoy them. And also because I want to represent cooperative and courteous use of those trails among all users so that we can continue to enjoy them for many years to come. Thank you.
My name is Mark Kobayashi. I am a member of the Mountain Bike Patrol Unit. I live in Eagle Rock, and I was delighted to find trails literally at my doorstep when I moved into this area 5 years ago. And I hope that my participation in the Trail Safety Patrol will encourage continued safe public use of the trails. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dave Baumgartner. I'm a member of the Hiking Patrol. I live in Duarte, and I've lived in the foothill community all my life and have hiked the trails, and as far as I can remember, have loved being on the trail. And a couple years ago, one of my crowning moments of hiking, I was able to do a through hike of the Pacific Crest Trail. And on that hike, I was very impressed with the number of volunteers that were on the trail, not only bringing water to areas where there isn't a lot of water, but the number of people rebuilding the trail and the trail angels that would go out of their way to help the hikers, all from Mexico all the way up to Canada. And so that left an impression on my mind to say, you know, I've been using the trails all these years, and And that volunteer spirit really instilled something in me, and I wanted to be a volunteer. So when I heard about this program, I thought this is a perfect thing to be on the trail, help the community, and give back.
Good evening, council members, city staff, and the public. My name is Bill Weissman. I'm a member of the hike unit of the Trail Safety Patrol. I live in far north Glendale, and the reason I wanted to do this is because we have a great legacy here in the city of Glendale of open space that some of you behind the dais have contributed to bringing to this city. And it's really a very valuable resource, and it's a resource that deserves stewardship. And for all the open space in Glendale, but especially the area in my backyard, Duke-Magian Wilderness Park, I consider that to be a rough diamond in the crown of the Jewel City, and feel very privileged to be able to look after that resource. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Scott Moore. I live in La Crescenta, very near Duke-Magian Park. My kids use the trails frequently up in Duke-Magian Park. I ride frequently in the Verdugo Mountains. Thank you for the opportunity to be a volunteer on the trails. I look forward to serving the community here. And on a related note, I'd also like to mention that I'm a board member on the LA County Bicycle Coalition, and I want to thank the council for implementing bike infrastructure in the city. For me personally, in particular, the Sharrows, which I use nearly on a daily basis commuting from my home to downtown LA and back. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Paul Rabin. I live in La Crescenta. As was said earlier, the volunteer spirit here is very high. It makes one of the things that makes Glendale such a wonderful place to live. We look forward to helping to ensure that the usage of the open space is done with fun, intelligence, and with safety in mind. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kent Bullard. I live in Spar Heights, and I've always considered the trails and the hills and mountains of Glendale one of the greatest assets of the city for the 15 years that I've lived here, and this program is just a great opportunity to promote safety and to give back to the city for having those trails, and it also helped me persuade my wife that I need a new mountain bike.
Hello, my name's Bonnie Strand, and I was born here in Glendale, and actually I worked here at the City Hall in 1964, a long time ago. But anyway, I'm a local hike leader. I lead for the Sierra Club, and I thought this was a good fit to do more hiking in Glendale and also give back to the community. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Bob Thompson. I live in the beautiful city of Montrose in North Glendale. I'm a native. 66 years in Glendale, if you can figure that one out. I've been leading for the Sierra Club hikes all over Southern California for the last 40 years, and when this opportunity came up, I wanted to be part of it right away. I mean, to give back to the city that I was born in and do things that the city needs, because in today's economy, we need many more volunteers for all the things, city parks, anything in the city, you know. So if nothing else, volunteer. Thank you.
Last. My name is Paul Ayers. I work in Glendale and live in Glendale. And I agree with everything that everybody says, but the real reason I did it is for the outfit. Thank you.
I like those outfits. Just to close very briefly, I wanted to make a couple of quick points. As just said, we wanted to acknowledge the very generous contribution of the Glendale Parks and Open Space Foundation, who really helped fund and launch this program. Moreover, I wanted to add that we are going to put together a third unit to the Trail Safety Patrol. This is called the River Unit, and the purpose of the River Unit will be to patrol along the Glendale Narrows Riverwalk and in the lower reaches of Brand Park and in Duke-Magian Park. And the idea was that because of the rather rigorous qualifications, physical qualifications that we set down for the hike unit and the mountain bike unit, we might have overlooked some people who were really interested in giving back to the community, who love the outdoors, and who would want to get out and do this kind of patrol, but for whom hiking to the top of the Verdugos or, mountain biking across the San Rafaels might be more than they would want to take on. So the river unit is something that we have opened up. There is information about it on the park's homepage on the city's website, or if someone watching at home is interested, they can call our main number, which is 818-548-2000, and just ask for information about the river unit, and we will set them up. With that, I thank you for your time and for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you all out on the trails.
Thank you. We've already, I'm part of the mountain bike unit as well, and we've already been out biking with all of these individuals, these volunteers, and I must say that they leave me in the dust. You really have to be in shape. They're great bikers, they're great climbers, and I think they're an asset to this community, and I want to thank them for contributing their time and effort, not just participating as a volunteer, but also helping staff and organizing everything that we've been through in terms of the training and all of that. I'm sure the hike unit is just as committed as the mountain bike unit, but you have individuals who are committed to open space. You have individuals who are committed to the safety of the individuals who use the open space, and I just want to thank them for their commitment. I also want to actually encourage anyone out there who is interested in open space and any of these programs, not just the river. What was the name of it? River Unit. If there are, and I see a lot of mountain bikers out there who are not part of this program, if there are individuals who would like to volunteer, this is a great way to volunteer. If there are individuals who love to hike, this is a great way to hike and to better know, to better get familiarized themselves with the trails and the open space in Glendale. I didn't know how much open space and trails there were in Glendale until I started biking with this unit. So I'm grateful. Again, I want to thank all the individuals who are participating and donating their time. It's going to contribute to safe trails and use of the open space, the safety of our community, actually. And I also want to thank staff for the over a year and a half work that you have done. It's commendable, and especially that you're willing to expand the program. So congratulations, and we'll see you all out there. Maybe tonight, if we cut this short, I can come and join you guys for the. Is there an after party or something? Or?
There might be. I'll text you.
Yeah, okay, very good.
Yeah,
again, thank you very much for all that you've done and you're doing. So.
I totally agree with Mr. Manukian. The staff's done a great job, and the volunteers especially. It's kind of glamorous here at the chamber, but I know what it's like up on those trails. I mean, this is a legitimate volunteer group that's going to have work to do. They're not just going to get to go up there and have fun, but they've committed themselves to it. There certainly works out well for the city and the residents. So on behalf of the council, I want to thank you very much. If Mr. Manukian becomes too
wobbly?
No, I was thinking authoritarian out there up in the hills. Don't pay attention to him. He'll just be a volunteer just like the rest of you. So, but no, he's very excited about it. He talks about it all the time, and he's shown me his bike, and so anyway, I'm
trying to convince him to join us.
I'm more of a street, and actually, you know what? If you're done, I forgot totally that we also had another business that opened up in town, a Triumph dealership, the famous English motorcycle company, opened a little north. It's the same owner that owns the Ducati and Moto Guzzi and Aprilia dealership there, right a little south of downtown Montrose. Now they've opened up even closer to Ocean Avenue. They've spent an enormous amount of money on their location and on all of their over 100 motorcycles. They're quite expensive machines, and of course, the city of Glendale will realize all of that tax. And in addition to that, I was there for the grand opening, and they committed that they wanted to do a scholarship. So I'm looking forward to funding, to working with them and trying to figure out what they can do to fund a scholarship. I suggested that it be students that perhaps are interested in mechanics and something mechanical. So they seem to be quite receptive to that idea. But the new Triumph dealership, it's worth going by and looking at that, all that artwork on wheels.
I even got a Red Cross first aid card.
All right, good. So, hopefully you won't need first aid.
Hopefully not.
You'll be administering. Right?
You and my wife have the same kind of approach.
Outlook.
Whatever you do, don't fall.
Anyway, well, thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Manukian. All right, next, please.
Next on the agenda is the consent items. The following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of the council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before a motion is proposed.
I'd like to pull 8C, please.
Right, 8C.
I'd like to pull 5A.
5A?
5C.
5C.
Sorry.
Okay, we'll pull.
I'm already on 8.
We'll pull 5A and 5C.
I'll move the remainder of the consent calendar.
Second.
Roll call.
Council members: Friedman.
Yes.
Manukian.
Yes.
Najarian.
Yes.
Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Quintero.
Yes. Read 5A into the record.
5A is Director of Community Services and Parks regarding Civic Auditorium roof replacement project in connection with spec number 3497. A1 is a resolution adopting plans and specs and directing the city clerk to advertise for bids. A2 is a resolution appropriating $360,000 to provide funds for the roof replacement.
I asked for this to be pulled. I don't want the full report, but let's just get a little background on our civic auditorium. We're currently losing money on it, correct?
That's correct, sir.
How much are we losing a year?
Mr. Dran?
Mayor Quintero, Councilman Najarian, and members of the City Council, for the current year, we're projecting a loss of $157,000. Over the last 5 years, the operating loss of the Civic has decreased by 35%. It used to be up to $433,000. It was down to $282,000 last year, and at the end of this year, we're projecting a loss of $157,000.
Does that take into account the anticipated action of the council on a particular event?
We have not taken that into account yet.
That would be an additional $50,000+ loss.
It would be.
Okay. So this is about replacing the roof, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
This item is, and the roof is $360,000.
It's 22,000 square feet of flat roof. It's a big area.
It's $360,000, correct?
Yes.
And where are we taking that money from to pay for the roof?
We are recommending to appropriate the funds from our enterprise fund balance, which is currently $3.9 million.
What other sources, what other uses are there for those enterprise funds in the balance of those funds?
The enterprise funds are targeted primarily towards our enterprise operations, and our two main biggest enterprise operations would be the Civic Auditorium and the sports complex, for example.
They could be used for upgrading the fields at the sports complex?
Yes.
And indeed, it is being programmed for various projects there.
Replacing the turf?
Yes, the artificial turf.
Facilities for the kids to play soccer?
Correct.
But this money in the fund balance, which could be used for those, at least $360,000 is going to the roof.
Correct.
And we're running a deficit in the operations of the Civic.
Correct.
And your $157,000 figure does not take into account additional loss of about $54,000. So probably we could estimate over $200,000 loss.
That would be correct unless we're able to supplant the loss of the gun show with a different event and a different vendor, and that would be our goal, to fill those weekends with a replacement event or vendor.
I didn't say the G word.
I
you
understand.
did. Are we actively trying to fill spots?
Not,
Where does actively trying to book events?
not until
Yeah, not
council
as of
takes
yet.
an action. We will not.
Separate from the G Word show, are we actively seeking to fill spots in the
On
Civic Auditorium?
On an ongoing basis, we reach out and we market the Civic Auditorium. For example, the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium is down right now because it's under construction. So we obtained a list of their annual vendors, and we're doing special outreach to those vendors to see if we can bring them to Glendale, for example.
Are there any other events currently scheduled at the gun show that you feel might be threatened by public opposition?
The gun show or
Cat
the
show?
Civic?
We're talking about the Civic. We know the G show is out, on its way out. Are there any other events currently booked that are facing public opposition which would lead to a loss of revenue to the city through loss of rental?
Not to my knowledge.
Cat show? The dog owners aren't opposing the cats?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
Mr. Duran, are we making progress on the indoor soccer?
Mayor Quintero, members of the council, yes, we are. We should be ready for a report to you probably in 5 or 6 weeks. Early March.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a very, very big hit.
Yes, we project
Lots
we
of
could
money.
earn about, what was it, $80,000 if all goes. But we'll probably have to appropriate some of the enterprise funds for startup costs.
Right.
But once that's off the ground.
Right, once that's off the ground, I think that's going to be very popular. And I've talked to a number of, let's call them older adults that play soccer on a regular basis, doctors, dentists, et cetera. And boy, they are ready to go. I mean, they're going to, I think a lot of professional people that go out and do different things are going to really like having something close by, and I'm very optimistic about that. And then I know the boxing promoter hasn't had any shows, but maybe we can talk him into coming back, and especially if ESPN will be part of the program.
We're reaching out to him as well.
I'll move 5A, Mr. Mayor, if there's nothing else.
Roll call.
Council members: Friedman,
Yes.
Manukian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Weaver, Mayor Quintero.
Yes. Read 5C, I believe.
5C is Director of Public Works and Fire Chief regarding purchase of proprietary piece parts and services for the maintenance of city-owned Pierce fire apparatus. At C1 is a resolution dispensing with competitive bidding and authorizing execution of a 5-year contract with South Coast Fire Equipment, Inc. in an amount of $800,000.
Mr. Mayor, I asked to pull this item because whenever there is an issue that deals with dispensing with competitive bidding, I think it's important for us to give a report to the community as to why we're dispensing with competitive bidding. So if the city manager could please address that issue.
Yes, sir. We have a Pierce fleet at this point, 24 vehicles in our fire department apparatus fleet. Those vehicles require that we have Pierce parts and Pierce technicians. South Coast is the regional authorized Pierce vendor, and so really there is nowhere else to go if we are to use Pierce technicians, Pierce parts. And so when you look at the historical amount that we spend, anywhere from $130,000 to $150,000, this amount is in keeping in line over the 5-year term of the contract with that historical trend. And this is the vendor that provides those Pierce parts and technicians.
That is the vendor that we go to currently. There are no other vendors that provide these parts or these
Not to my knowledge, sir.
expertise.
And not as the authorized vendor for this region is South Coast.
All right, I'll move the item.
Second.
Roll call.
Council members: Friedman,
Yes.
Manukian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Quintero.
Yes.
If I may follow up, we still will be negotiating with them in terms, we're not going to accept their prices as is. We will still negotiate as we're dealing with the parts and the service to get as good a deal as possible for the community.
Absolutely. This is a not to exceed. It doesn't mean we
Okay.
will spend that much. We'll spend what we need to spend, and if we see that there's something that we can gain an advantage on, we always will take
Okay.
take that into
Just to be
consideration.
clear. Thank you.
All right. Next, please.
Next item on the agenda is listed as oral communications, but this will be the first portion of oral communications reserved for 3-minute event and community event announcements. We will revisit the full 5-minute portion at the conclusion of all city business.
All right, I have 2 cards. Andy Lane, followed by Leon Mayer.
Hi, I'm Andy Lane from Senator Carol Liu's office, and I just wanted to let you know that the senator is having a free tax assistance event. Do you have it?
I have it up in the
You
second.
have it.
There we go.
There we go. A free tax assistance event, and it's hosted by California State Senator Carol Liu and the State Controller John Chung. And so this is all free tax preparers. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. The event is going to be Thursday, February 7th, and I don't want everybody to get too excited because, first of all, the number one criteria is that you make less than $51,000, which encompasses a large amount of people. But this event is actually just filled up today. However, I want to let you know about this event and others that are eligible to people who make under $51,000 a year. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So what we're trying to promote is the senator has waged an earned income tax credit campaign. What we're trying to do is we're trying to alert people in the community that they may be eligible for the earned income tax credit. If you make below $51,000, you may get a tax refund of up to $5,000. And then if you go to the next slide, the purpose of this campaign, here are some data from the New America Foundation about why we have the earned income tax credit. It's the number one tool to address poverty in America. And I think the data that stands out the most to me is that 800,000 Californians let $1.2 billion of tax credits go unclaimed every year. So we want to make sure that everyone in our community is drawing those funds down from the federal government so that they can be used in the community. And if you go to the next slide, you are welcome to contact the office. This information here will give you direct information about where you can get free tax information and where you may be able to get information about the earned income tax credit. You can call the IRS. You can go to www.eitc.irs.gov. You may call 211 simply from dialing 211 from a landline, or you may go to www.211.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Quintero, members of the council and staff. My name is Leon Mayer. I'm here on behalf of the Friends of the Glendale Library, and we have an event tomorrow night I want to remind people about. It's called the Beer Chicks, and the Beer Chicks are Christina Perazzi and Hallie Bowe. And I know we have a lot of serious things going on in Glendale. I've heard Era Nigerian talk about a very serious thing that we're going to be involved with. This is a light thing. This is about beer. This is about draft beer. And this is about 2 books that these young ladies wrote, and they become famous on Amazon and in other areas in connection with that. They've written the book, The Naked Brewer, and The Naked Pint. And you can find out all about that tomorrow night at the library at 7 o'clock. Don't bring any beers. We don't serve beer at the library. But it should be an interesting event. You can park at the adjoining parking area, and your parking will be validated for 3 hours. Now, we have a very timely event coming up on February 20th. And I'm particularly happy that I got here early so I can meet members of the group, that the bicycling group, the safety group that was
Trail safety program.
The safety program that was recognized tonight. I already talked to Mark Sturtevant and a couple of the members to invite them personally to our event on February 20th. That's on February 20th, we're going to have Art Cobery talk about his book, The Great Crescenta Valley Flood, New Year's Day, 1934. And this is a great book, and Art Cobery was a high school teacher at Burbank High School for over 30 years, high school history, and he's written the history of this not a great event, but this colossal event, which was a natural disaster. And he's written about the heroic aspects of the conduct of a lot of people involved and some of the tragedies. And this is going to be February 20th, 7 o'clock p.m. This should be a very interesting event, and we urge all members of Glendale, all residents of Glendale, to try to make the event. We know people from La Crescenta and Montrose are going to attend this event. So that's the situation. And the co-sponsor of the event is the Historical Society of Crescenta Valley, which Art Cobury had something to do. I think he founded that organization. So see you on the 20th, and see some of you tomorrow night, maybe. Thank you very much.
Hopefully, for the beer group, we won't have the safety people coming.
I didn't bother to give them any of those flyers.
Good. I appreciate that, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Next is item 7, which is adoption of ordinances. 7A is an ordinance authorizing issuance of Glendale Water and Power Electric Revenue Bonds 2013 refunding series, introduced on January 22nd, 2013 by Councilmember Weaver.
Mayor, move 7A.
Second.
Comment? Just to reemphasize that this is a refinancing of the bonds, and it will be saving us considerable amount
$2.8
of-
million.
How much?
$2.8 million over the life.
I wanted to make the same point. I voted against various bond issues. This is a refi with just like a refi on a house that you can get a much lower interest rate, leading to pretty significant savings. Have one speaker card, Herbert Milano.
Mayor Quintero, members of the City Council, City Manager Ochoa, City Attorney Garcia. I'm sure that all of you received this packet a few days ago and reviewed the content of this document. I'd like to point out to you that the abstract that appears at the top of this ordinance says that you're going to be issuing $23,690 million, if you could take a look at line number 2. The reason why I want to point this out to you is that for many years it has been my contention that members of the City Council, some of them, members of the administration often do not really read through carefully some of these documents upon which you signed put your signature. Now, the actual body of the language is correct, $23,690,000. But my point here is that you are given so much information, you have such packets given to you such a short notice, and so is the public, that oftentimes significant numbers like this, where you actually have in very large print a $23 billion potential obligation, and it basically bypassed a lot of very well-paid employees and city council members. My main contention here with regard to this idea of refinancing is a good one, meaning that you have a debt, you want to go with a lower interest, you reissue bonds, and in that regard it is a good thing. But the actual practice of transferring money from the utility and then backfilling that hole with debt, in a way, is akin to borrowing money to sustain the general fund. The fact that you do it through the utility does not necessarily justify it, in my opinion, but it is my contention that we need an independent legal interpretation of the practice that has been so common for many years of taking money from the utility, rendering the utility in a significant deficit with regard to its infrastructure needs.
Is this pertinent to the issue at hand?
Oh, the issue of the transfer? No, sir.
Right. Okay, so
I see.
stick to the bond refi.
Very well. I'll leave my other comments with regard to those transfers for later. I just wanted to at least point it out that I don't know if you need to reinstate or reintroduce it due to this error, or whether simply the fact that it's accurate down below is sufficient. I would like to see you to address this. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, the number is 23,690,000, so that the resolution or the ordinance should reflect that number.
worth noting.
That's the number I see. Is there another number somewhere?
In the
Yes.
the abstract at the top of the ordinance, there's 3 extra zeros, but in the body it's accurate. It's worth noting that in the early 2000s and even prior, when the utility reserves had been quite flush, the city was transferring revenues, or the GWP was transferring revenues to the city pursuant to the charter. So to the extent that we're continuing that practice and continuing to use strategic debt financing to fund long-term infrastructure is nothing new.
Well, the question actually begs an answer is, can we approve this the way it's written, or does it have to come back next week with the correct numbers on it?
Councilmember Manuki, my opinion is it could be voted on tonight because it is correct in the ordinance and all the other documents were correct. So it can be, with that change, it could be voted on tonight.
Okay, you've introduced the ordinance, Mr. Weaver. Do I have a second?
I seconded it.
Roll call.
Councilmembers Friedman,
Yes.
Manukian,
Yes, I just want to make sure that it's 23 million, not billion, 690,000. Yes.
That's correct, sir.
Najarian,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Quintero.
Yes. Next.
Next on the agenda is action items. At 8A is Director of Information Services regarding software and services for development of a new city website, implementation of a web content system, site migration of existing website pages, and ongoing maintenance, support, and hosting services for 1 year. At 8A1 is a motion authorizing execution of an agreement with Vision Internet for a total not to exceed amount of $138,100.
The Director of Information, Emeritus, please come to me. Come to.
Writing his last staff presentation of his Glendale career. Soon to be retired, Ed Fraga.
Out of the meeting. Mr. Mayor Quintero and members of the council, Ed Fraga, Information Services Director. The item we have before you, can we get our slide up, is for a new website for the city of Glendale, something that is long overdue, I think, and we would like to acquire the software and services to do this in a new way and to provide the city with a very modern, social media aware website. So with that, let's just move to the outline. We'll do this very quickly. I guess I'll do it. We're just going to cover why do we need a new website, our vision and the sourcing decisions we've made, leading vendors in this area, what our selection process was, what the selection results were, some screenshots of some of the other cities that this firm has done, some of the additional functionality that comes along with this, and a project timeline. With that, why do we need a new website? Well, as you know, our website is fairly long in the tooth. It does not reflect modern thinking with regard to websites. For example, our website was done in a what we'd call a webmaster-centric style, that is organized really by how the city is organized and not by how the customer wants to use city services. So we want to correct that. Those are the first two bullets. We have an inconsistent look and feel. If you go across various departments, they're not all looking the same. You can't completely tell for sure that these are all, in fact, departments of the city of Glendale. Our design is fairly outdated. We have a very inadequate search capability. If any of you have ever used this search capability, it does not work.
What you need.
It does not work very well, and we want to correct that. We want to get a more Google-like search capability. Our website lacks mobile device awareness. What that means is if you are on your smartphone and you access our web page, you want to be able to have it show what is appropriate and in the size and format for a mobile device. We don't do that currently, but that's something we would look for. It lacks synchronized department and citywide calendaring. You want to have a master calendar of the city, and each department have their own calendars, and yet be able to see it all consolidated and be able to subscribe to either one or another of the departments or the whole city.
We lack subscription services where people can go on and say, I want this, push this to me, push that to me, whenever those changes occur. That's a capability. And finally, we are not ADA compliant. Americans with Disability Act, Section 508, which mandates for the federal government that there are disability requirements for all federal websites, and states have adopted that as well, and many, many cities have as well, and we do not do that. So we want to ensure that people with disabilities, ocular vision problems, are able to use our website effectively. Our vision is that we create a website that has the same brand, the same look and feel across the entire website, so that everybody, every part of that website, you're sure for sure this is the City of Glendale. We also want to have the departments empowered. Right now, we're kind of webmaster-centric. Everything comes through the webmaster, and the webmaster posts everything. We want to have the departments be able to operate their portions of the system on their own, but yet have a central review, the PIO, able to look at everything and be sure before it gets published that it's appropriate. So that's the overall vision of what we're looking to have occur. We decided, in terms of the sourcing decision, our current website was done in 2006, so it's 6 going on 7 years old. And it was quite an effort at that time. We looked at, well, we could do that again, or we could go out and see what's in the marketplace. So we went out and looked at what's in the marketplace, and there's a whole series of reasons why it is advantageous for us to simply acquire a professionally done multi-city system that we can customize for ourselves, rather than try to redesign and reinvent and build all of that. And we'll show you a little bit about that. It's more cost effective. We get the ideas. Whatever other people do, we can get that as well. And yet we'll have considerable flexibility. So we decided to look into that. We went out with an RFP, request for proposals. In December 17th, we received 3 proposals. On the 28th, we formed a selection team, and we purposely got 8 pretty significant large departments of the city to be on this selection committee. The vendors came in, each of the 3 vendors came in and gave a defense of their proposal and presentation of their demo of their product. Our criteria were in these 4 categories, as you see, and those are the weightings of them. So cost was not an overriding factor. It was one of several factors in the selection process. These are the 3 vendors that proposed to us, and these are the 3 leading vendors in this area. So we got all of them to propose, and as you can see, one is out of Newport Beach, one's out of Manhattan, Kansas, and another's out of Santa Monica. And you can see that each of these have quite a few. We have cities and agencies. Some of them are counties, school districts, and that sort of thing, as you can see across. And you can see there some of the larger and representative cities that these various vendors have gotten. So Long Beach, San Jose, San Francisco, at the top there. Notice in Vision they also have places like Santa Clara, Cupertino up in the Silicon Valley. These are the results of the selection process at the top there, the various categories, how each vendor scored, and which vendor, Vision Internet, scored the best. In terms of the cost analysis, now we did our cost analysis just on the one-time cost, but if you look at the recurring over a 5-year period, Vision Internet is even more cost-effective. Their ongoing costs are quite low, in the $7,000 to $8,000 range, and within 4 years we get a free redesign of our website included in that cost, so that we can always stay current. Here's an example of one of the Vision Internet sites, Greenboro, North Carolina. They're pretty representative in terms of being about our size and having the consistent look and feel. And you'll notice things like at the very beginning there, One of the menus is I want to, ... Very oriented toward the customer. Something the customer wants to do as opposed to how we happen to have things organized in the city. So the most commonly asked for functions are under the I want to button. And we get to design what that is exactly. City news, newsletters are integrated here. They can subscribe to various newsletters, maybe the City Connect one, maybe the Water and Power one, or any others. Then you have the city government. That's the departmental organization. Each department gets to do their own thing within there in terms of it's the same structure, but they have all of their own menus, their own activities. Visiting for people who want to visit, and the business and development areas. That's similar. Here's another one that's also interesting, City of Santa Clara, which is actually about 120,000, I think, in population, larger than you might think, and right there in the heart of the Silicon Valley. And they have selected, there again you see what's news, their departments, community, business, and government. And as you can see, there's integration with Twitter and Facebook and RSS feeds and that sort of thing. In addition to all of that, of course, I mentioned the master and synchronized departmental calendars. That's a feature. Newsletters, calendars, RSS subscriptions, social media integration, the I want to I've talked about. Mega menus, they're easier to navigate. You do a drop down and you see multiple choices that you can make. Mobile aware dynamic sizing, so it knows the kind of device you're coming from and adjusts accordingly. And then, of course, we would host the internet side of this in the cloud. It would not be dependent on the city's site. It would be available to everyone there. And I should mention that this also includes an intranet, that is the website that we have for our own city staff, and that we would host here in the city. Well, the internet. That's right. We do not need to acquire servers to host our internet site. Exactly. So with that, our project timeline is about 6 months. We expect by this summer that we have this up and running. And with that, here are some of the representative at the top cities in California that this vendor provides the service to: Santa Clarita, San Francisco, of course, Lancaster, Simi Valley, Santa Clara, Burbank. Outside of California, Atlanta, Georgia, which, as you can see, the population is quite large. Greensboro, so a little bit bigger than we are. Reno, Montgomery, and so on down the line. These are just representative. Like I say, they've got 500-some cities and agencies. Any questions?
Good, Mr. Manukian.
Just a suggestion, as you had the Santa Clara website on, I had the Burbank website on, and it looks kind of similar. It would be good to have, not to have all the cities kind of look the same and feel the same.
Yeah.
It would be good to have a different, I like the design. I think the City of Burbank's website looks very nice. I like the design, but it would be nice to have a different design than all the cities that the same company is doing. I would not want to have them take the template from another city and just plop it into our...
Absolutely, and we thought exactly the same thing, and there will be considerable flexibility for us to do it the way we want to do it.
Okay, very good. It looks good. I think it's time.
Questions or comments?
Want a motion? Move 8A1.
Second.
All right,
No
Ed.
speakers on this?
No speakers. Ed, I want to thank you for doing a really good job. I know when you first took this position, there was a lot to do. And sure enough, you slowly and steadily made lots of progress, and I think you're leaving, I know you're leaving the city in much better shape, the entire IT department. I've certainly been able to sense the difference since you took over. So thank you very much, and I know the entire staff feels the same way.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add, it's been a pleasure, Ed, and you've really done a job. Now, you look like a quiet, mannered, laid-back man around here. Would you mind telling people where you're going to go when you leave here tonight? Where are you going to head to? You won't believe this one.
Well, actually, tomorrow I'm heading to the National Cowboy Poetry Festival.
Fine,
and then this summer I'm going to be doing a horse trek across Mongolian plains
Wow, can I go with you?
with the Mongolians. And,
now, who would want to go to Mongolia and ride a horse across?
my nephew.
I've always wanted to do that. Give my regards to Baxter Black.
I will.
And
As a
then
matter
him
of
a few
fact, he will be there.
Yes, I would
Thank
expect.
you. Thank you all very much. There is, though we got a number of things done, there is still much work to be done here.
Well, you're leaving a good staff in place, I know that.
Well, as a matter of fact, I'd like to, if you don't mind, me introducing some of the new folks that we've brought on.
Just one last thing. Will we have access to your cell phone in Mongolia?
They certainly do, yes. I would like to introduce some of our new recruits for the city. These are a group. This is only some of the new young folks that we've brought in that I think will serve the city very well in the future. Starting on the end there is Randy Trudeau. He is. We stole him from JPL, and he is our security manager, and he's really doing a great job to bring that all into place for the city. Next to him is Hagap Hovasian, and you must forgive me for not pronouncing that correctly. All these years, I just call him Hagap. He is now the administrator of all the applications. He is the man who who implemented all of our permitting and licensing and did such a great job with that. So he'll be over all of the applications work. And finally, our newest recruit, Damian Patrick, and he is the webmaster, and he helped me a great deal in putting all of this together and doing this RFP.
Good job. If I may make a comment as well, when I came on in 2011, actually, the thing that I noticed the most was the amount of security and how much it had improved. So as it relates to city websites and city access and all of that, I think the amount of work that was done on access security and the intranet, not the internet, but intranet, was tremendous. So I want to compliment you on that as well, because that is, in my opinion, that is one of the most important things that we can do for any kind of network. So that certainly grabbed my attention when I first came on. So good job.
Thank you. There's still much more work. I left them plenty of stuff to do. So
I'm wondering if I can just get an off-road motorcycle and follow you on the horse. I have no interest in the horse, but...
Well, Ed, you're going to be missed. You really will. You've done a great job, and I wish you'd reconsider.
Sure haven't.
Even though that horseback riding stuff sounds great. Wouldn't you rather be here working on the new website?
By the way, I should also mention that none of this would have happened without Ms. Beer's assistance. She has been with me on this and supported me all the way through. And, of course, Mr. Ochoa, since he's come on board, has been very supportive. And none of this would have happened without them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a... We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Council members: Friedman.
Yes.
Manukian.
Yes.
Najarian.
Yes.
Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Quintero.
Yes.
Goodbye, Ed.
Next, please.
Well, you don't want to leave that.
Next item on the agenda at 8B is Fire Chief regarding one-year review of BLS ambulance program. B1 is a motion to note and file the report.
Good evening.
Scoggins.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and city staff. Tonight, I'd like to invite Battalion Chief Greg Fish to give the presentation on our one-year basic life support program review.
Mayor Quintero, astute council members and city staff, members of the public, my name is Greg Fish, battalion chief assigned to the EMS section, that's the Emergency Medical Services section. I'm here to talk about our one-year review for the basic life support program that we have. Next slide, please. Perfect. Thank you. 6 things we're going to talk about. First is the new service delivery approach that we landed on. The impacts on the advanced life support, also ALS. I'll refer to that as ALS in the future, response times. Impacts on the busiest engines, mutual aid impacts, basic life support, or BLS, program financial analysis, and some challenges. The new service delivery approach. Management Partners was hired by the city to go out and find a more efficient way to possibly run our service delivery model for pre-hospital care and running EMS calls. They gave us 3 options. Of those 3 options, we chose option 2. Option 1 was stay the same way it was, so no changes. Option 2 was convert 4 advanced life support or ALS ambulances to BLS ambulances, along with the 5th that we already had in place. Option 3 was add a 6th ambulance. And so we chose option 2. We felt that option 2, along with our Glendale Firefighters Association, this was a collaboration together. We came together on this, and we felt that this was the most prudent approach to deliver EMS within the city of Glendale. So we chose option 2 on January 9th. It was implemented, and successfully implemented, I might add. The goal of the BLS program that we are running right now is to reduce costs, yet maintain staffing levels on all fire engines at 4 people, and maintain the EMS service levels. The impacts on the ALS response times. You can see in this particular slide how there are certain districts that really benefited from this. And the reason why that is because we moved the paramedics off the 4 ambulances and we put them on all 9 engines. So because of that, District 23, which is Chevy Chase Canyon, is seeing an improvement of 3 minutes and 55 seconds. We have a term in emergency medicine that time is tissue. And what that means is the sooner we can get to a person that's in a cardiac arrest or having a serious problem, we can administer oxygen, we could administer pharmaceuticals for pain management or even for recovery. That's going to make a huge difference in that person's survivability. And so you can see we really made a significant impact on District 23, Chevy Chase Canyon, District 27, which is on the west side, District 28, which is up in La Crescenta.
Why is, if I may interrupt, since I live in District 23, why are the response times so high, higher than anywhere else?
They were high in District 23 because this is just for a paramedic unit.
Right.
That's why, because we didn't have a paramedic unit stationed in the canyon. The closest one was RA-25, which was at Chevy Chase and Verdugo. If RA-25 had a call, and they were a very busy RA, another adjoining RA would have to come up there, and that increased the response times.
So you can see, Chief, can you go ahead and let us and the public know? Can you just go down and quickly tell us where 21's located? 22?
Sure. District 21, Station 21 is located at our headquarters station near the Galleria. 22 is located approximately at the intersection of Chevy Chase and Glendale. 23 is near the library up in Chevy Chase Canyon. 24 is right across the street from Verdugo Park. 25 is at Verdugo and Chevy Chase. 26 is on North Brand, right next to that Verdugo Towers, roughly at Stalker and Brand. 27 is on Western at Glen Oaks. 28 is at Community in New York, and 29 is on Honolulu, right across the street from Trader Joe's. So again, this was a real big takeaway for us because we're having a huge impact on those outlying areas, and we're real proud of that. That was a big move for our ALS response times. Okay, so impacts on the busiest companies. So what we're talking about here is these are our busiest districts: Engine 21, Engine 22, 25, 26, and 27. They're basically our downtown engines. What we're talking about here is the average total time per shift engines are committed on emergency incidents. And we're talking about the beginning, when the dispatch occurs, all the way until the time when they're back in service. So this is a significant increase, and it's a challenge as well. Some of the things we have to realize is that because we have paramedics on the engine companies instead of the rescue ambulances, the ALS component, if we have an ALS call, they have to follow up and go to the hospital, taking that engine company out of service for a longer period of time. That's why we're seeing an increase in the amount of time that we're assigned to incidents.
And keeping in mind that these engines are on duty 24-hour shifts, we're paying for those engines whether they go on calls or not. So the idea here is that we're getting more productivity out of the engines themselves because they're in service doing calls.
You're definitely getting more bang for your buck, if that's what you're trying to get at, yes. But the other thing is this also, we're still not sacrificing the drill hours of 17 hours a month. We're still not sacrificing the company inspections that occur on a regular basis. So what this has done is this has truly increased how busy our companies are on a regular basis, especially for those downtown 5 companies. Mutual aid impacts. This was something that we discovered was actually quite a pleasant surprise. We chunked the numbers on this, and we realized that outside ambulances dispatched into Glendale went down. And that speaks to the fact that we have more resources in town. So what we have is we have 4 BLS ambulances 24 hours a day. And during our peak hours, we have 2 additional. So even though you could consider it 5 cars for all intents and purposes, we have 6 cars in the peak hours of the day. So that's really helped us drop the outside ambulances dispatched into Glendale. And you can see in the Glendale ambulances dispatched to the outside cities, or outside of the city, we are giving more than we're getting. And that's what this slide speaks to. Okay, so the program financial analysis. The EMS system billing, you can see over the years, and we have it projected out to 13-14, has been increasing. And there are reasons for that. Some of the reasons are we're running more calls. We're simply running more calls. We also increased the billing that we use. So we've increased for certain pharmaceuticals. We've increased our bills. And then you can see on the second row the insurance write-downs. The insurance write-downs are what Medi-Cal and Medicare won't pay. These are pre-negotiated things. Insurance companies, what they won't pay. So you can only get so much out of these entities, and then whatever's left over, we bill the homeowner or the patient. And if it's uncollectible, you can see there's an uncollectible account right there below that. So our net collections, you can see, is going up each year steadily, except for the fact that 12-13 is just a little bit less than 11-12. But we're projecting a net collection of 5.4.
I think it's important at that point to reemphasize that the insurance companies have these pre-negotiated terms and things that they will pay. So if we decided just not to collect those, we didn't want to chase those dollars per se, well, shame on us because the insurance companies are paying those dollars. And in the environment that we're in, we need to collect as much as we can. And you see that the gap in coverage where it would be billed to a homeowner or to a patient is the lesser amount. By and large, we're dealing with insurance companies that will pay, and if they will pay, then we need to make sure we're collecting efficiently.
Has the uncollectible accounts historically been at 10% approximately, 9 to 10%?
I want to say it's been a little bit higher, as I recall.
Has it?
Yeah.
Has it been higher? Is it going down? Or?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Manukian, the uncollectible accounts have remained steady. It's a little bit higher than 10%, but it's remained steady over the years.
Is there anything we can do to decrease the amount of uncollectible? Maybe the paramedic membership, although we're doing very good in terms of the paramedic membership fees, maybe we can do something to decrease the uncollectibles and increase the membership fees? Maybe?
both of those options would be great. To increase the Glendale Medic program at $60 a year, $5 a month, that's an excellent, outstanding program. What the city has done is hired a new collection company, Sequoia Financial, and you can see the number that's in the citywide collection revenue of 28.5. So a change is starting to happen. In the past, we relied on Whitman to do our collection, which is our billing company. Didn't do a very good job. Sequoia Financial is doing a better job.
Good, thank
What
you.
is the membership fee so the people listening?
Membership fee is $5 a month or $60 a year.
And in return for that, paramedic
In return for that, if
services.
you have a medical call and you're a patient, your bill will be billed to either Medi-Cal, or Medicare, or your insurance company, and that will be suffice for the payment.
And that would probably include the Verdugos, by the way.
Yes.
Service up in the Verdugos.
On a bike, yes.
Off of bikes.
See, Mr. Mayor,
It would definitely cover that.
at my age, I signed up for that a long time ago.
Did you?
And what if you don't have Medicare or health insurance? at
If you
that
don't
point?
have Medi-Cal or Medicare, we will bill you half the bill
Okay.
if you have Glendale Medic program. So
Generally, how much? Just curious.
it depends on the call. We have an ALS-1, ALS-2, and an ALS-3. I can get you that information if you want.
Just
Like $1,000.
It's roughly, for an ALS call, it's about $1,400. Okay, so it's a savings of $700 if you didn't have insurance. So what we see here from the $4 million to the 5.5, 4.7 to the 5.5 is about $800,000 in increased revenues. So that's something that we're going to see coming down the pike here.
Can I ask you a question about the uncollectible accounts? Does that also include amounts that, so that's different from the insurance write-downs? I mean, those
Correct.
are just accounts that you're not able to collect. So
Correct.
it's a different number. Okay, so the insurance write-down is a very large amount. But what is the, I guess it appears in the total revenue. I'm wondering what the actual cost of services then, and how that reflects into the insurance write-down. Because you're billing more
Correct.
than it
Our
actually
EMS
costs you
billing's
to
at
deliver the
the
service.
top row, and our insurance write-downs are in the second row.
Right. So and that's why you have a positive revenue. But it almost seems like there's a line missing of the actual.
Our net collections are the positive revenue. Yes.
Well, there's no, positive revenues after the expenses, I would think. So.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
and
no line item
It's
in
the
there
next-
that shows.
It's the next slide, I believe.
It's the next slide, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So in this, you can see we have
The costs, basically.
the costs. This is the expenditures that we come up with, salaries and benefits, and it starts off in 10-11 at 5 mil, and then it goes up, and then we drop it down. And the reason why we're dropping it down is because this is part of the paramedic fund. The first year we had 21 paramedics, and the second year in 11-12 we had 18 paramedics. These are firefighter paramedics that were funded by the paramedic fund. And in the adopted 12-13 we had 9, and we expect there to be no firefighter paramedics funded from the paramedic fund in projected 13-14.
That's because of the BLS program?
Yes, that's correct. So you can see the M&O has gone up considerably, and that's okay because we've absorbed that cost as well. So the total expenditures, you can see, has also, it's approximately 1.5 million less. So this is also quite a savings. Let's see how we doing. So the final. This is the point where we get really proud of the fire department. We really feel like we've contributed to savings in the budget overall. The gain loss, you can see, starts out at 1.2, goes up to 1.8, 1.6, and then it's projected, we actually go into the positive. And the reason why is because we're no longer transferring that 2.1 million, which has dropped down to 1.6 million in 11-12, and it actually is closer to about 800,000 for adopted 12-13. And then it's projected at being zero. So there is your savings. There's a tremendous savings. That's the part that we feel collectively at the staff and the association have collectively got together, and that's where we've made the savings. That's where we've contributed back to the general fund.
And the resulting there, again, keep in mind, we are a service business, and so our service primarily is animated by the cost of our people. So the way that we're getting to this savings is, as Chief Fish indicated, management and labor collaboration to recognize that we will drop positions and find a new and different way to deliver higher, better, more cost-effective service. And you don't hear that narrative very much at all in the newspapers and in the media, and sometimes for good reason when you look around at some cities and the way that they do their business. I think this is something that certainly the fire service is proud of, that they had the foresight and the courage to try something new together, but certainly it starts with the council saying, we want a new answer, and go find a new answer, and standing with the department. So that really is what has pushed this effort to this level, and it's something that I think a lot of other agencies in L.A. County and in the state of California are beginning to look at and experiment with, because if one thing is certain, when you look at the call load, the vast majority of our calls are EMS related. The game changer afoot right now is the Affordable Care Act, and we are going to be looking at still more ways and more opportunities to actually go from a point where a business model where we're looking not to lose money and possibly even make money in the delivery of medical services.
So, hitting the mark, we talked about the threefold objectives that we wanted to accomplish before we started with management partners' recommendation. And what we had is we've accomplished it. And you can see right here, did we reduce costs? Yeah, to the tune of well over $2.1 million. Have we maintained 4 members on all engines, which we believe, as a staff in the city, we also, and our association is 100% behind us, that it is very critical to have 4 people on every engine company, not only for medical calls, but for fires as well. We keep small fires small in the city of Glendale.
When you go into those fire grounds, you're going 2 in, 2 out. If you don't have 4 people on that engine, you're not able to perform at an optimal level until that second apparatus arrives.
That's correct, sir. Thank you. And maintaining EMS service levels. We're still providing 4 EMTs and 2 paramedics on every EMS call. So we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish when we set out to take this BLS program on. Challenges. Some of the challenges we're facing right now and could face in the future. Maintaining staffing levels of ambulance operators. Our current ambulance operator pool of employees is very transient. It turns over quite a bit. We've had a 39% turnover in all of our ambulance operators. And for the most part, the reason why is these are generally young men and women that come into the fire department looking for a job in the fire department, and not just the city of Glendale, but anywhere. And if the city of Glendale is hiring, that's fantastic. We can matriculate them into the system. If we're not hiring, which we haven't hired for approximately 3 years, it's difficult to hold on to them. So they find jobs elsewhere, and that's what's happening. So we're really working our brains out to try to find a way to maintain staffing levels that are appropriate so that we can staff our ambulances. Ambulance operators' work schedule. Currently they work a 12-hour shift. That can be a challenge. For every position on every ambulance, it takes 4 members to staff that one position. We're looking to the future to hopefully change that and possibly go to a different shift schedule, creating a 3-member commitment to each position, or possibly less.
4 members meaning two with 2 shifts, basically.
Yes.
2 per rescue ambulance.
2 per rescue ambulance.
2 per 12-hour shift.
For a day shift and a night shift, exactly.
And as part-time employees, that speaks to this. On the one hand, it's good that we have part-time employees, part-time EMTs, but as Chief Fish points out, the challenge is at a managerial level, what happens as you schedule those people coming in and out, what happens as they move out of the program to become full-time firefighters and paramedics somewhere else. When we operate and evaluate and modulate these programs, that's a real challenge for us.
What is considered part-time?
Well, they're working
it's a week, or
well,
they're working less than 40 hours a week.
Yeah, so
less than 40.
Probably the 3
could be 36,
12-hour shifts. Yeah.
It varies. The other challenge that we have, it doesn't come up very often, but it does come up, and it has come up, is the limited number of resources during major events. And we've had 3 brush fires that went to a second alarm and 1 structure fire that went to a third alarm, and that definitely challenged us. The way Verdugo Dispatch sends units is they take the closest units and they send them to whatever the incident is. So what we've done to overcome this is we rely on our mutual aid partners from our surrounding cities. They come in and they help us, and that's no different than it was before. It was just like that before. We would have a depletion of resources before. The only difference is we're not left with an ALS ambulance sitting in the fire station. We're left with a BLS ambulance. So that's part of the challenge. And then, as our city manager said, the future implementation of the Affordable Health Care Act, that's not something that's just the Glendale Fire Department AO program. That's going to be widespread. And so this is something that on January 1st, 2014, all hourly employees are going to have medical insurance of some sort. So this is definitely a challenge for us as well, and we're going to hopefully meet the challenge and find a way to fund that. With that, I'll answer any questions. If you have any?
Questions at this point? No? All right, maybe we'll call you back, Chief. I have 2 speaker cards, Noel Johnson, followed by Herbert Milano.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Noel Johnson. I live at 412 North Kenwood Street. I actually appeared before you folks a couple of months ago, and as a result of that appearance, I had conversations with Chief Gully of the Fire Department and Mr. Bradford from the Finance Department. As a result of those conversations, I delivered to your offices a letter last week about my comments and observations about the meetings I had with the fire and finance people. I didn't realize this report was going to be here today. I saw it online, and the reason I'm here is that the salient point, as I saw it in the report, was the fact that in the salary line, there was a reduction of $2.65 million from one year to the next, which is certainly admirable. But it's a 55% reduction in salaries for the EMS unit. And it just seemed to me that it would be very difficult to do that in 1 year, especially while, as was noted in this presentation and also in the report, that the department was going to be increasing the number of ambulance operators, as I read it, and also the number of sworn personnel who would receive the paramedic premium. And all I'm asking today is that the council request more detailed information about the salary saving. For example, it was mentioned just a moment ago that positions were no longer going to be occupied in EMS. Or are those positions now going to be occupied in the operations department? Or are they positions that are going to disappear from the fire department totally? Because in the former, the money is just being shifted. In the latter, the money would disappear. I don't know the answer to that. So I'm just asking you folks to take a good hard look at the numbers and be satisfied with them before you do something, before you just receive and file this thing. Thank you very much.
The next speaker, Herbert Milano.
Mayor Quintero, council members, my name is Herbert Milano. I believe it's commendable that the city, the fire department, didn't just note it and file this report, but rather gave a more thorough explanation. It is my contention that given the importance of this department and the significant cost of the general fund and other funds, that you have a quarterly thorough evaluation of the performance. I have made a California Public Records Act request, and you should have a copy of this document. The California Public Records Act request asks for information concerning survivability. Survivability was given as one of the primary reasons for these particular changes on EMS. And so I asked for the number of cardiac arrest victims who arrive alive at a hospital. Here's the response I got from the City Attorney's Office. With regard to your request for the number of patients who arrive at an emergency room with a heartbeat, this request is identical to your request from February 15, 2012. Our response has not changed. The city does not keep such statistical records. Yet, if I were to go into the internet and look at the City of Seattle, we have a very clear performance objective, which is that particular measure. That measure is not only impacted by the performance of their fire department and their EMS, but also distance to the hospitals and other conditions that may take place, such as traffic conditions and so on. So I'm cognizant of that. But I think it is a measure that this city council should demand as the primary measure of effectiveness. So anyway, the City of Seattle has a 50% survivability rate, increased from the mid-40s just a few years ago. I checked with the City of San Francisco. They're in the high teens. And a report that was presented by Mr. Coggins a few years ago, Chief Coggins, it was in the 6th percentile, roughly. But the point is that we don't appear to have a definitive, regular evaluation of survivability, neither for heart attack or cardiac arrest or stroke victims, and I think that the city should demand that. I also want to point out a couple of errors that appear to be errors. Maybe they can give an explanation. There is a cost associated with page 20 of the Management Partners report that shows a $3.3 million cost to salaries, and then on page 7 of the newer report, a $5.5 million cost to salaries. And I thought perhaps you may want to ask the fire department management team to answer that question. Why the difference between what was projected by Management Partners and what is actual that appears here on this document? Thank you.
Well, I tell you what I find interesting. This is obviously a very positive report. I think you have successfully instituted a fantastic program, but we have Mr. Milano here who wants us to keep track of the heartbeat, who arrived at the emergency room with a heartbeat. Give me a break. Give me a break. I am very, very happy to have this report, and I'm very pleased because, quite frankly, this was a super, super big step that the fire department took. The managers, I think, have been proven correct, and without a doubt, the association, the rank and file firefighters, have absolutely made this a successful program. And it was ultimately up to them, it was up to the firefighters to voluntarily come on board with this. They went ahead and did it, and it's worked very well. The statistics bear that out. Financially, we're heading in the right direction. So I am very, very pleased with this report because it was certainly an issue that could have gone either way, and it absolutely went in the right direction. But like I say, nothing's ever going to please some of the people that come to this dais, and it's always the same names, and now they're running for city council, so I put no interest at all in attempting to answer it. Now, as for the first speaker, I think he had some questions that are worth responding to.
And I'll invite the chief back just in case I missed anything. Essentially, the salary savings that comes from this program is the permanent reduction of, I believe it's 21 positions that are gone. That's what makes this program so remarkable in terms of a collaboration within the department, and that the goal was to improve service and cut cost, not necessarily find any kind of self-serving motivation. In doing that, that savings is ongoing and reoccurring. That's why we were able to collapse that paramedic fund and eliminate that transfer. Chief?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Ochoa. Mr. Johnson's assumptions are correct. The only way that we can achieve that savings is by removing 21 positions off the books in approximately 1 year. That's exactly what we did, and also hire the ambulance operators to fill those positions. So his assumptions are correct. Unless we did this, this could not happen. He's absolutely correct. And might I add also, we did all that in the middle of our ISO survey and maintaining our Class 1 rating as a as a fire department. We did all that with implementing our strategic plan. We did all that with running more calls than we ever had in the history of the Glendale Fire Department. And it's like you said, Mr. Mayor, we could not have done that without a collaborative effort between labor and management. The GFFA has been side by side along the way as we've been walking down this road. We've had some difficulties along the way. We've worked them out as we've gone down this road. So Mr. Johnson is correct. And to address Mr. Milano's questions, I'm not sure of how he termed his request, but we keep all of that data. It's actually in our KPIs on how many,
on a quarterly basis.
Our key performance indicators on how many patients we transport in cardiac arrest. I think the first quarter was 36. What's going to be coming before you in the next quarter, approximately 38, somewhere around in there. But we report how many we get heartbeats and pulses and respirations back. We track all that. That part's not in the KPI, but we do track all of that information. So it's important to note the management partners report. I'll ask him what the discrepancies are. But I got to tell you, as a fire chief for the organization and for the city of Glendale, I can't be more proud of the work that the men and women have done in the Glendale Fire Department, and that's from the newest ambulance operator on the job to our dispatchers who have made adjustments to our fire prevention inspectors, in making the changes that we needed to make to go in the direction we need to go in the future. Can't be more proud of the work that's been done as the fire chief of the Glendale Fire Department.
Well, what I was interested in from the very beginning, quite frankly, the potential of saving money is interesting always. But to me, it's about the service, and I didn't want to compromise the service. But specifically, what interested me was bringing in these ambulance operators, young men and women that have chosen this field, that want to eventually become firefighters, and the idea of being able to train them and to have this core of recruits, if you want to call it that, so that somewhere down the line we'll be able to judge what they're like and bring them into the full fire service position. I know some of them are leaving, but I can't help but think that perhaps they may, even if they get on with another department, they may be potential recruits that eventually will come back and work for the city of Glendale. So to me, that's just a bonus to what you've done.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I had my reservations about this program, as you know. I didn't mince words, and I made my feelings clear at that time. But I'm cautiously optimistic about what you have presented today. I'm glad that you presented it and the public is aware of it. I'm glad that the response times are going down. That is, in my opinion, one of the main indicators about the effectiveness of the fire department. As the mayor said, it seems like you are heading in the right direction. The reason why is I'm cautiously optimistic because we're comparing projections with actual numbers. I think those actual numbers as they come in, they will indicate that we are within the parameters that you've set for your department. So congratulations. It's a great report. And I hope that it continues. So I don't want to say I might have been proven wrong, but that could come to pass. It's not very often that I will do that, but it just
admit that you were wrong.
No, I will not. But I will say that you knew where the direction you needed to head, and I'm glad that you're doing that. And the important thing is that the response times are dropping, and that's saving lives, in my opinion. So thank you very much.
Ms. Friedman.
Well, this is a program that makes a lot of sense. And using advanced life support for the majority of our calls, which only require basic life support, made less sense. And with this model of having the advanced life support when you need it, but also having the basic life support at a much lower cost when that's all that's required, is very frugal, and I think it's the right way to go. I had the pleasure of meeting some of these young people about a week ago, and they seemed like, I wasn't sure when you were talking about hourly workers what we were getting, whether these were, glorified cab drivers or what they were exactly. But meeting them, these are serious. These are paramedics. These are people that someday will be fabulous firefighter paramedics or firefighters. certainly people that we can be proud of, and even though they're hourly now, they're still, I think, a great addition to the fire department family from the few of them that I met. Also, I wanted to say that I'm very proud of the Glendale Firefighters Association, because this is one of those cases where, as the chief said, it wasn't just management coming up with this. This was management and the rank and file and the association really sitting down and figuring out a way that we could stretch our limited dollars and stretch our resources in the best way possible. And since I've been working with them, I've always found both the department and the GFFA to be concerned with one thing primarily, and that's the safety of this community. And that's the way that it should be. So I want to thank everyone involved. I mean, the numbers are right there for everyone to see. It's something that certainly seems to be working not only in terms of saving dollars, but in terms of response time, which is not something that I expected to see. So that was a great additional bonus for me tonight. So we'll continue to look at this, and if we need to tweak it over time, we're certainly open to doing that, and that might be something that we do in the future. But I just want to say great job.
Thank you. First off, to the chief, I want you to know that you are the envy of other city councils in the San Gabriel Valley. I had a chance to have a meeting last night with several of their mayors, and they had nothing but high regards for you. Despite being several miles away, they were keeping a close eye on you and our department. And I kid you not, they were very impressed with you and spoke of you as being one of the top chiefs in the nation in terms of running the department and motivating your firefighters, captains, and battalion chiefs to handle anything that comes forth in Glendale. I'll tell you who they were later. You know who they are, but I was very surprised when I heard this, and I thought, what do they know that's going on in Glendale? Secondly, a year ago, I wasn't skeptical, but I always keep an open mind before passing judgment. But I do know that our previous model was a model that was not sustainable. We were going downhill quickly, and in the environment of saving costs, trying to cut costs with a declining budget, we had to do something, and you certainly come up with a great idea. And for those folks at home, I mean, just to encapsulate it, this was an audit done by a very reputable, nationally recognized company. Their conclusion is that their analysis indicates that Glendale will increase its overall ALS responsiveness while significantly reducing the costs to provide ALS and BLS services by reassigning paramedics from existing rescue ambulances to create 4-person paramedic engine companies at all 9 of the city's fire stations, and by using the hourly EMT ambulance operators for transport to hospitals. So they're giving us a stamp of approval on this. And I've made up my mind after speaking to some of your battalion chiefs and Battalion Chief Stavros, and we really got into the details of this issue. I'm very pleased with that. I want to make sure that when we do our accounting in the budget, that the write-offs that we see for the insurance write-offs, that they're not tagged as an expense tied to this program, because that's not fair, I think, to do so. When you talk about the expenses and the costs, I think it should be the actual cost, not what the write-down is for insurance or Medi-Cal. And I know those write-downs are very steep in many cases. So out of fairness to your budget and to your program, let's make sure that Mr. Ochoa and Ms. Beers, that we really attribute the actual cost of the program, so we don't get an inflated cost when we look at your budgets and all that, and we unfairly say, look at all the money we're giving to the fire department. The last comment I'd like to make is I'd like you to come up with an idea to even make this program better, and that is perhaps we can work on a protocol with the local hospitals in terms of an earlier release of your paramedics and your engines. I know you spend sometimes a lot of time in there until you get some sort of clearance from the hospital to let your rig go back. I know that's a lot of downtime for you. There may be a standard protocol that's followed, but if we can return your men back to the station and be ready to cover that next call, I think we could achieve even more efficiencies in a very good program. So thank you, to your men, to the ambulance operators that are coming on, looking for that shot at the big time with the force. Congratulations to all of you, and let's just keep it going. The residents of Glendale are the winners in this program.
Mr. Weaver.
Well, I remember 2-3 years ago when I met with some people, firefighters in the department, says, we have an idea. We think there's an idea that will save the city a lot of money and other positive factors. It was outlined to me, and I said, hey, go with it. I've always trusted the firefighters. If they have a good idea, go with it. They all bought into it, and the proof is in the pudding. I'm just sorry that over the recent years you've had to take the crap that you've had to take from some individuals in this community that have tried to rip up the fire department, totally uncalled for. And I'm just sorry you've had to suffer through that. But you've only had one speaker here that wanted a little more, but you don't have a room full of people ripping up the fire department today. And as far as, to me, yeah, saving the money and everything is great, but it's as Mr. Manukian said and the others, that response time. A minute can be the difference between life and death. Getting there that 1 minute sooner, and that means a lot. And I subscribe to the $5 a month plan. It's about the cheapest and best insurance I could ever get for my family. They've had to come a couple times to our house, and one time I went with them down to the Adventist Hospital, and they stayed there and made sure that everything was okay with my wife. That's just so valuable to any resident in this community. And I'm sure other cities will, if they haven't already, will adopt the same plan eventually. There's no downside to this plan. It can only get better. So congratulations to all you guys. You got a winner here.
Once again,
thanks, Mr. Stavros.
Thanks to the chief and to the Glendale firefighters that put it in motion, and to all of Chief Fish and all the rest of the individuals that were assigned to put this together. But it's absolutely wonderful, wonderful news. So, okay, do I have a motion to file? And
sure, I'll move AB1.
Second. Roll call.
Council members Friedman?
Yes.
Manukian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Quintero?
Yes. Next, please.
Next is oral communication, returning to the full 5-minute portion. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. City manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report.
Harvey Pearson, followed by Nick Doom.
Not look like Mr. Pearson. Oh, there he is.
Mayor Quintero, Honorable Glendale City Council members, I'm Harvey Pearson, Los Feliz. Please stipulate that the attached photograph on the DS in front of you should be in there. In Glendale's coming post-plastic carryout bag era is one of many who does not drive. Let's assume she doesn't drive, this lady in the photograph there, and is thus either waiting for public transportation and or is waiting to walk to and from the market. And please further stipulate that she has forgotten to bring her previously purchased reusable bags with her. Accordingly, for practical purposes, she will have no choice but to either buy additional, relatively expensive reusable bags at the market, ones defined in the ordinance definitions as ones with handles, or else pay 10 cents a bag for each recyclable paper carryout bag, which may or may not come likewise equipped with built-in handles. Therefore, it seems to me that at a minimum, Section J of the definitions section of the ordinance should be amended to read, recyclable paper carryout bag means a paper bag with handles, etc. Otherwise, can we just imagine this senior lady carrying her purse over her shoulder while carrying a no handles, heavily weighted paper bag in each hand, like this? That lady, the older lady in the photo, no viable way. You know, she's going to drop the bag's going to break, etc. Handles could help. And one thing's for sure, she's not going to be able to go get reusable bags out of the trunk of her car because she doesn't drive. She doesn't have a car. You know, there's a lot of seniors in that situation in Glendale, all over the place. So then, in closing, I would say that there are several major stores located in Glendale that already offer or will be selling recyclable paper bags with handles. For example, Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, among others. Vaughn's Markets, on the other hand, the now defunct Albertsons at Central and Chevy Chase, plus the one that's just across the street from here, Ralph's Market, no luck, no handles on their paper bags. However, if you go to Pasadena, the Ralphs in Pasadena, they have a special thing called Fresh Fare. So among other things, you get a paper bag with handles at the Ralphs in Pasadena. So if they can do it in Pasadena, they can surely do it in Glendale. And if they could do it by amending the ordinance to require that at least the paper bags have handles. So on behalf of such seniors, and by the way, not just seniors, others too, throughout Glendale, may I thank you very much for your consideration accordingly.
Nick Doom, followed by Deborah Dentler.
Mayor Quintero, members of the council, staff. My name is Nick Doom, and I'm a resident in Glendale. And I am sorry I could not make it last week with all the attention given to the other issue. But I enjoyed this meeting tonight. The safety team, I walked through Duke Majan Park a lot, and I'll be glad to know that they are there. And I observed the fire department, and for the first time I heard a city agency actually contribute to the fact that they can do more with less. And I applaud them for that. And my rant this evening is about paper bags. And I suggest that if you wish to ban paper bags, that you ban paper bags. When I read that in the paper, I thought, okay, they'll ban paper bags. And then I read the ordinance and got a little irritated at many things. I'm not going to spend the whole night tonight talking about everything that bothers me, just a few things that I hope you can consider either amending or, if not, repealing the ordinance. And the first thing that really bothers me is the special privilege you grant to these big business supermarkets to charge for a bag. And I read where it is to cover the cost of the bag, as well as complying with the requirements and additional costs of recyclable paper carryout bags and so forth. But to me, it looks like big business gets a special privilege and a break. And if this ordinance is inconvenient for the big business, why is it convenient for me to pay this fee? I think it's also inconvenient for me to have to pay this fee. If you want to ban paper bags, then ban paper bags. But don't force another cost upon me, the consumer, to contribute this. As well as provide exceptions. Because it seems to me that the small business owner at Farmers Market gets to supply a free, reasonable bag. They must absorb the cost. But the big business gets to pass the cost on to me, when they could easily hide the cost among other items, except pass the direct cost on to me. And that's my first real big beef with that. With the second exception also going to the city itself providing exceptions, where I read it will be at no fee, or let me find it exactly, free of charge at any city facility, which When I teach economics, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Someone's paying for this, and the taxpayer, again, is having to pay for this. You want to ban paper bags and ban paper bags, and I'm sorry, I said, thank you, Rocky, plastic bags. Then ban plastic bags. And I then look at how it attributes to those businesses that deal with selling produce and food. Yet throughout the city, I can go to Americana and get a plastic bag, or go to Target and get a plastic bag, or still buy produce in plastic bags, my bread in plastic bags, or the Office Depot in plastic bags, or even JCPenney in plastic bags, or my favorite store, Americana, is Crumbs in plastic bags. And if we're concerned about the environment and banning plastic bags, then I suggest you ban plastic bags. The cost to me, I find, imposed upon you is a form of coercion, where I understand coercion to have the city force me to drive at a safe rate on a city street. I even know I may disagree with the city using coercion to force me to pay a certain parking fee to park on a certain street. But to use coercion to force me to buy this bag for 10 cents as a dad, speaking when I have to remember all kinds of things these days on which soccer field am I going to, or to have the right basketball, or the right cleats, or is it drinks I bring this week, or the lawn chair or beach chair for the park, or what have you. And on the way home to buy something, now I have to remember to bring home bags. And again, if you want to ban plastic bags, and ban plastic bags, but don't impose this fee upon a store to provide the consumer with something to carry them out or carry them home with. And I appreciate you listening today. Thank you very much.
Deborah Dentler, followed by Tony Passerella.
Thank you, and good evening, City Council, staff, and members of the public. And I've submitted a request to have the clerk post something on the monitor for us while I talk. Again, my name is Deborah Dentler. I'm a Glendale resident. I'm serving the city currently as a member of the city's Water and Power Commission. I'm here to ask a few questions tonight about the city's contract with the gun show owner. I came last week to speak, but understandably the speaker time was cut short, and so I didn't get to finish some of my questions that I wanted to raise, so I'm back again tonight. As most of you heard me say last week, my husband and I have raised 3 children here in Glendale. They all use the facilities at the Glendale College throughout their childhoods, across the street from the Civic Auditorium, where the March Gun Show will be permitted to return for about 1 month from today, March 1st through 3rd. My eldest child took a class there at Glendale College when he was only 13 and still a student at Wilson Middle. And I think the college library is still open on the weekends nowadays as it was when he was a kid. My middle child was in the college child care center when he was only 18 months old, and my 3rd child enrolled at the college at age 18. My family also enjoyed using the surrounding parks, which are right up the street and around the corner, as we all know, Nibley and Verdugo Park. There's a skateboard park, there's a community garden, and of course we all love the swap meet just up the hill. So I'm here for a couple reasons. I have some questions. I wonder how many of these other surrounding recreational venues might be holding events that same weekend that might add to the congestion, traffic, litter, and parking problems that the gun show will create. And I'm hoping that the Parks Department will check those out. Now, last week at City Council, no one discussed the terms of the gun show contract. And I'm here to ask a few questions and point out a few aspects of that contract. But first, I want to congratulate you. I'm sorry that the mayor has stepped out for a moment, for doing the right thing last week. Mr. Manoukian, I want to thank you for bringing back the measure that failed to gain any traction years ago. I especially want to thank Mr. Weaver, who's my neighbor in Glen Oaks Canyon. Mr. Weaver's remarks showed last week that he came and listened with an open mind, that he still has an open mind, and that he's willing to consider making a change to our city's older way of doing things. The gun show might not have been known in years past as a troublemaker in town. It didn't attract huge crowds. Maybe it wasn't a security risk before. Maybe it didn't cause traffic jams. It didn't cause mile-long lines or attract hordes of major media. But those days are over. What changed? The game changer was the Sandy Hook massacre. The gun show attendance levels have gone through the roof across the United States since the Sandy Hook massacre. I have some news clippings with me. I presented them last night to the Parking and Transportation Commission meeting. And I'm here to ask you and staff to consider taking a look at the experience in the counties adjacent to ours. Just last weekend, the Orange County Gun Show experienced a huge spike in attendance. The show, which normally drew 10,000 or 13,000 folks, spiked to a record 25,000, and people arrived at 3 a.m. The gun show before that went a show in Ontario on the weekend of January 5th, just days after the Sandy Hook massacre. The crowds were beyond anything the city had experienced in the previous gun shows. In Ontario, there was a line 4 hours long. It stretched more than a mile, and it was there before 6 a.m. So I realize the show must go on. I know that the City Council has decided to allow the March 2nd and 3rd show, but I would like to I'd like to see our city really get prepared for what might be happening there with the size, the scale, and the new impacts that we haven't seen before from the gun show coming to our community. My husband and I are both lawyers. We've looked at the contract. I have it up on the screen. If we can go to page 2. I want to just point out a few things in the fine print on pages 2 and 4 of the contract. Here we have page 2. You'll see that the maximum capacity I've highlighted of the gun show event is 500 people inside the Civic Auditorium at any one time, but this probably means we need to plan for thousands lining up outside the Civic, waiting for their turn to get in. That's what happened at Ontario. Who will control the orderliness of the line, the litter? What if tempers flare? What if the line is already a mile long at 3 a.m.? Page 2, let's see.
I can't have you go forward.
I understand. But if you could take a look at pages 2 and 4, the presence of alcohol, the need for security guards to be there as early as 3 a.m., and I'm asking council and staff to help us make sure that we have a safe, solid plan in place. Thank you very much.
Okay, and please submit the documents to the clerk if you like. Tony Passarella, followed by Herbert Milano.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and viewing public. My name is Tony Passarella. I 100% disagree with the previous speaker. 50, we're running a deficit at the Civic Auditorium of $150,000 a year, and you want to shut down the gun show that brings in $50,000 a year? I don't get it. Quite honestly, I just totally don't get it. I think it's wrong, and I'm totally justified in my opinion by the numbers of people in opposition that were here last week. I want to play in a minute. I want to play a video. Do we have that? In a minute, Artie. I want to set this up by saying that this is a very, very powerful trailer to a movie that's going to be a documentary soon to be released in regards to smart meters. I am in the movie, and I was contacted by Josh Del Sol, the maker of the movie, to do a pre-release screening here in Glendale. And my purpose for doing this is to wake up the citizens, wake up the public into much, much more important issues here in the city of Glendale and in the country and around the world, other than the gun show, which is totally wrong. But I want to roll this clip here, if you would, Artie.
Passarella, just to let you know, our internet's been down, so we're going to hope that this works.
You put a story out there, it's wrong, but what the heck? We're going to go with it. We're going to look you straight in the eye, and we're going to lie to you. What are you going to do about it?
Is raising new questions tonight about the accuracy of PG&E's controversial new smart meters.
People all over the state have been complaining about inflated bills.
Her bill was $873.
It does not save energy, so smart grids miss the mark on energy savings.
It's all about money. We're going to be charged for time of use one day. It's coming.
And they're going to start having a profile of you as an individual. How you use your time, how you spend your energy, what you think.
Right down to the micro level. I mean, this is control freakery.
It is the wet dream of the technocrats.
You've got massive data storage areas that never existed before, specifically to accommodate the accumulation of this kind of knowledge.
The next thing we know, people are walking up in the early morning hours to people's houses, taking off the analog meters and putting on the smart meters without telling anybody.
And now there are real concerns that they can blow a fuse, even explode, and put those homes at risk.
Half a dozen smart meters across 1 to 2 suburbs have exploded.
422 fires were discovered as a byproduct of the smart meter installation.
The smart meter had blown up. It looked like it had exploded.
Hydro's billion-dollar smart meter program wrote back saying it's not responsible for any loss, injury, damage, or expense.
The evidence gets stronger and stronger that there are adverse health effects that these regulatory agencies can no longer deny.
I can't tell you how many people have called me who became dreadfully ill the minute one of those got put on their house.
The smart meter stopped my heart completely.
The smart meter was installed. Within weeks, the patient has a dramatic downturn in brain function. He was no longer able to walk. 6 months later, he died.
We've given them consent by being quiet. We can't afford to be quiet. This is a game changer.
People are rising up and they're finally saying, no, we have to take back our power in all sense of the word.
Thank you, Arnie. This does not benefit the people in any regard, and I want the voting public to keep in mind on Election Day that other than Manukian, everybody was for the smart meters. So when you vote on Election Day, please remember this.
Can you remind the speakers maybe of what's
No
allowed?
electioneering.
I'm sorry, I was talking to Mr. Zern.
Thank you, I'm done.
Yeah, no electioneering. Basically, I'm surprised there's no United Nations plot in that movie. Maybe that's further in the movie.
That's coming in a few weeks.
Yeah, that'll be in a few weeks. Thank you. Herbert Milano, followed by Margaret Hammond.
Mayor Quintero, members of the City Council, City staff, my name is Herbert Milano. It has been my impression for a fairly long time that this City Council has been significantly uncomfortable with this process of having the public come before you and express issues of concern. When someone comes before you and they applaud you, you're perfectly fine with that. But the whole idea of a democracy, especially this event, is not to come here and to applaud you. Anyone can accept that. The idea for you to listen to and hear those individuals who have a concern, who have a complaint, or who have an idea that varies from the standard narrative that the management may want us to hear or to believe. You know, if we were going to have a oral communication system by which the people come before you and you only restrict it to applause for you and commendations to you, then I don't think that really is the test of a viable constitution, is it? The test really comes in when people come before you and say, you know what, I don't like what you're doing. I think that what you're doing is wrong. I think that your policies are impacting me. I think that you're not giving us the truth. I think that you're not being transparent. That it really is where the tire meets the road. When someone comes here and says, I don't like this. But apparently, Mr. Quintero, you never really liked that. And many of you never really liked the fact that someone would come in and say, you know, I heard you what you said last week. I went to check the data, and what you told last week to the public was untrue. It is amazing what has happened in the hundreds of times that I've come before you, listened to the narrative, checked it out, and then find out that it was not true. The role of oral communications really is to bring up the complaints and the issues that the public has, not to come here and simply applaud you. Being elected to office doesn't give you any additional intelligence or any additional knowledge. It just means that you managed to get elected, and oftentimes through a significant amount of deception and support by those individuals who really don't care about the public. I challenge you to test the validity of what you're saying, that in this method, in this means that we have here today, that we cannot, as the public or potential candidates for office, come here and electioneer, because this is the place where you become accountable. It is during the election process that we should be able to come here and say, all of these years, the things that you said during the past 4, here are the number of problems. So I'm going to test it. Not today, but I will do it next week. And I want the city clerk and the city attorney to see if you can stop me. Because I don't think that you have the legal right to do so, and you can bring the ordinances that says that you can't. Show it to me. I don't think there is any. So I have, in the last couple of minutes, want to bring up 2 issues that should be of concern. The park impact fees charged on new development was meant to mitigate the impact of the lack of parkland in the areas where they were built. You've taken that money and you put it miles away from where the impacts are. I think that the city should review that because it is unjust, it is unfair, and it is cruel. With regard to safety, basic safety issues having to do with cardiac arrest and stroke, particularly cardiac arrest, I like to make this suggestion, that the police department be empowered to be trained for and carry defibrillators, because the likelihood is that they will arrive much earlier than the paramedics and those big engines to the point where the patient is needed. Is in need of attention. Let me repeat that. This is not an idea that is new. It's an idea that has been tried before in other cities, and it works. So if you want to reduce the number of deaths due to cardiac arrest, maybe you should look at an alternative way of looking at the way you attend to this particular issue. So there you have it. Significant complaints, I am challenging you, and I'm bringing particular ideas that you could apply that means lives are saved in the city. Thank you very much.
Margaret Hammond.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, city staff, and audience. My name is Margaret Hammond. First off, 818-548-3916, free bulky pickup. In front of the apartments at 1214 Boynton, for 3 weeks, since somebody moved out at the first of the month, there has been a huge pile of furniture there. And nobody has the whatever to call about it. So I'm saying it right now. It's horrible. Anyway, I attended traffic and parking, the parking meeting last night, and they were regarding the ordinance on permit parking. In the area below Colorado, from San Fernando to the 2 freeway, reside 100,000 citizens, half the population of Glendale, according to the city of Glendale. And after 35 years of city councils cramming multiple housing units, including the crummy low-cost housing without adequate parking, we are now fighting to park on the streets that we have paid taxes for years. The proposed ordinance is to, quote, unquote, help, unquote, the residents, and that by giving them or issuing parking permits. So now we have to pay to park on our streets, and to get this, the fee would be $25 per car. Now, other areas have parking fees and they only pay $6. The proposed amount is 4 times the amount of any other area. We have auto dealers' employees parking all day on Louise Street, Maple, Chestnut, Lameda, and Elk. The auto dealers got special permission to build huge parking structures. I was here through all of it, so don't tell me I'm wrong. I was here through it, with the understanding that employees' parking would be included in those huge buildings. And then it came up also that for inventory, they would be allowed special consideration spaces in the Orange Street parking garage. So, and then I'm back to, why should residents making minimum wage pay 4 times the permit fees that doctors and lawyers living up on Mountain and Kenneth pay? Doesn't seem fair to me. I don't think it's legal, really. And I'm going to be getting a group of people from that area. I go to those apartments on Louise Street. I know, I've talked to the people that park there, and they say that the auto dealers will not, the employees, they will not let them use the parking structures. That is wrong. If they were given special consideration to build those massive buildings, then why aren't they using them the way that they were supposed to? And where I live, what I'm talking about, the area, there are 2 big churches on Louise Street. One of them being Holy Family, with 2 schools, an elementary and a high school. I have saying nothing bad about that. And there's another church on the corner of Chestnut and Louise Street. They have no parking lot at all. So on weekends, all day, Friday evenings quite often, there's Mass at the church at Holy Family. All day Saturday, the church and at the corner of Chestnut park on the street parking. And only that Holy Family does extend a consideration for them to use Holy Family, but Holy Family also has services all day on Saturday too, Mass and so forth. So here we are. We're crammed in there with this. And all these auto dealers, the employees, all the people, all the apartments that don't have enough parking to start with. And since it's an old area, many of the buildings do not have. Some of the buildings are 100 years old in that area. And there were no cars. I guess it was horse and buggy or something. But at any rate, I'm just saying, it's not fair. It's not fair. I know because I'm at that building all the time, working and painting and fixing. So I know what I'm talking about. I see the people and I see what goes on. Anyway, to get on to something really important, there seems to be a serious dereliction of duty happening in City Hall because there is no toilet tissue in the ladies' restroom, and there was none in there at 5:30, and there still is none. Thank you very much. I hate for visitors to find that we're so poor we can't afford toilet tissue.
Don't leave, Mr. Milano. Don't leave. Let me say the speaker was accurate when she made the observation that I think we have to be prepared for the gun show. I think we obviously, and I'm sure we will be.
We are right now. Actually, PD and Fire and Public Works are coordinating on the response plan.
Right, and I also think in the event that we do have to hire extra people, et cetera, it should be paid by the person that operates the gun show.
We are consulting City Attorney's Office with our ability to do that. And
it's there. I mean, if he has a very successful show, I'm sure he's going to generate quite a bit of money. But I do want to respond to Mr. Milano because he keeps implying that somehow we don't listen to the public, that we're not concerned, et cetera. That's absolutely not true. In 12 years of serving on this city council, I don't remember an instance when someone came to that that podium and had a complaint, had a concern that the person wasn't referred. When they came more than once, that person, whoever it was always listened to and taken care of. But he then goes on to equate himself with the average person coming there, and that's just not the case. Mr. Milano, you've been distorting, you've been lying, you've been deceiving people for many, many years. Speaking of data, you constantly distort it, you constantly present the wrong information or manage to tweak the information. And so, how do you expect us to respond? And that doesn't even come into, I'm not even talking about all the different things you write on the different blogs, but I'm talking about in-person presentations.
Mr. Quintero, you're lying.
You know there's
You're lying,
not,
Mr. Quintero.
No,
Please
you're
don't do
not
that.
allowed to do that. You know you're not allowed to do that. And the key is, you talked about speaking in front of us hundreds of times, and that's exactly right. That's how many times it's been hundreds. It seems like thousands, but it's been hundreds. So I'm actually looking forward to you and Mr. Mohill running for city council, because you've both run more than once. You've been defeated. Mr. Philpott, same way. He ran and he was defeated. So in the marketplace of ideas, let's see who's right and who's wrong. But you failed consistently, and I expect that you'll be failing again. And incidentally, we don't put the park money miles away from the redevelopment area. We're precluded from doing that by law, and we've always made sure that the monies that we take from the developers go into local park development. Anybody else? Mr. Weaver?
Yeah, I want to comment too, like you did. Mr. Milano wonders why we don't listen to him. Here's a guy that has written hundreds of articles, mainly in Vanguard, calling us each as collectively as corrupt. Every derogatory thing you can bring up, he's written to us about. He's made fun of each of us. He's accused us of everything. He's dragged my family into some of his things, ridiculing them, continually on and on. Then he comes here as mild-mannered Herbert Milano, talking to the public on TV, and why aren't we listening to him? And over the last decade, when he has said things that we're not prepared to answer at the time, Mr. Starbird in the past, Mr. Ochoa, have gone and, with Mr. Elliott, checked out what he says, and most of the time, he's wrong. And he wonders why we won't continue to sit and listen to a guy that continues to rip this council apart, like we've never represented the people. Come on, give me a break. I don't care to hear him. He's got ideas, okay, take them out there and sell them to the public. You're running for council again. You do that. He moves from Tahunga into an apartment on West Glen Oaks. He had to go out and register to vote first before he could get the papers to go out and run. At the last minute tonight, he turns them in. Good luck, Mr. Milano. We'll see if the public believes you as compared to some of the others running. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
The comments, Mr. Ochoa.
Only by way of clarification, the comment that elected council members aren't any smarter, I would only offer that you do have a great deal more context. And so to the extent that some park impact fee may make its way into regional draws like the Sports Center, like Duke Mason, is primarily because you can't build a wilderness park in South Glendale. I mean, there has to be a rationale and a logical, reasonable basis for any of those dollars that are moving out of the directly impacted area. And let's not forget that council is actually building the first park in quite a while in South Glendale at the Maryland Avenue Park, and Palmer Park improvements that are ongoing now. I would also tell you, and I'll defer to Mr. Lorenz, Sergeant Lorenz at the back of the room. My understanding, though, is that we do have defibrillators in the back of our PD vehicles, and that our guys are, and men and women are indeed trained.
He's signaling yes.
Is that the case? So, just for everyone's edification, Glendale police officers, patrol units are indeed equipped.
And I was referring to redevelopment funds that have to be spent within the target area. And one more thing, Mr. Ochoa, since you have only been here a year, or however long it's been, although you did live in Glendale, we built multiple small parks throughout the southern portion of the city, as well as Pacific Edison, which turns out to be a large regional park. And you build small parks, as I personally don't want to take apartment dwellers or condominium dwellers, but just say apartment dwellers out of their apartments to collect the land to build parks. So that sailed long ago. That ship sailed long ago in terms of large parcels of land.
Just imagine
This
the
adjourned.
number of apartment dwellers and buildings we would have to take out to build a regional park, the environmental documents that we would have to do.
Well, and the lives that would be affected, their children that go to the local
Parking we would
schools
have
and
to
so
provide.
forth.
It's-
It wouldn't happen.
It's
It can't happen.
financially impossible to do in this city today. Mr. Najarian.
Thank you. The gun show is coming. I think we should be very well prepared for those people coming to the gun show. I think we should have our community development group out there with flyers which tell them where the restaurants are in Glendale, with maps to show them where the sites are and the events are in Glendale, directing them to Montrose, to downtown Glendale, to the Americana, to Brand. Glendale Beautiful has a nice set of maps that describes our neighborhoods. I think we should have those open. Rather than show a police presence, I think we should have facilities for them. If we're expecting truly thousands of people, we should have portable restrooms ready. We can talk about who's going to bear that cost, but at least as an accommodating and hospitable city, as we are in Glendale, we should have this. These are people we're talking about. They have disposable income, and we should make them comfortable if they're waiting. We should have facilities for them to get water, perhaps food and snack while they're waiting in those lines. I think we should not lose this opportunity to welcome these people and show them everything good about Glendale. Whether or not we agree on the gun show, whether this is the last gun show or others to come, it's a large group coming. And rather than treat them as outcasts, we should relish the opportunity to make them aware. This might very well be the first opportunity that people are seeing of Glendale. Let's be good hosts, let's be good neighbors, and welcome them, and maybe we can attract them to Glendale for their shopping and for their purchases and for their dining.
Okay, do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second. We are adjourned.